could mean that guys like Lawrence Okolie, and especially if it's your right eye, if Jake's getting hit in his right eye, that usually would mean that he's getting jabbed, because that jab in orthodox would come out from the left hand on the right eye side.
And that experience would have been somewhat of a dawn of realization upon Jake Paul that this is actually happening now. So to an extent, I'll be honest, I actually feel sorry for Jake Paul. I mean, I don't.
Jake Paul was reportedly knocked out during training by a heavyweight sparring partner while preparing for his fight against Anthony Joshua. He later revealed a bruise and swollen eye, explaining that the injury occurred during a sparring session with Lawrence Okolie.
Keep it going. Way too long. There you go. Good round, Jake. Check that.
Joey Knight noted that Jake Paul had been training with elite heavyweight fighters such as Lawrence Okolie, Frank Sanchez, and Jared Anderson, and the intensity of those sessions clearly took a toll on him. Paul was seen with visible bruises and injuries, highlighting what Knight described as the toughest week of his camp, where the power and experience of his sparring partners caused real damage. These marks emphasize the physical demands of preparing for a fighter of Anthony Joshua's level, suggesting Paul is being pushed further than ever before, as even controlled sparring with top heavyweights proved punishing and severely tested his readiness.
Ranked Lawrence Okolie. That is who Jake Paul has been sparring with over these past few weeks.
Trouble finding Hussein Mohammed early on.
And a lot of you guys will know this because Jake Paul showed the bruises and marks on his face and said that it was Lawrence Okolie that had done that. And faces don't necessarily tell you how a spar went. Some guy can have blood all over him, he can have a busted up nose, but he still won the rounds in sparring. But I can only imagine that this week has been a very, very humbling experience for Jake Paul. In fact, the past few weeks will have been eye-opening for Jake Paul. A past few weeks where he has sparred the likes of Lawrence Okolie, of Jared Anderson, and of Frank Sanchez as well. And being that I have seen Jake Paul go life and death with Tommy Fury, you can guarantee you that Okolie, that Anderson, and that Frank Sanchez have basically manhandled Jake Paul in there. And that experience would have been somewhat of a dawn of realization upon Jake Paul that this is actually happening now. So to an extent, I'll be honest, I actually feel sorry for Jake Paul. I mean, I don't, because then I remember the 70-odd million that he's reported to be earning at the end of this fight. But you can't deny, right, that in a world where these almost fantasy fights and whatnot are making such a shitload of cash, that Jake Paul's probably being paid in line for this fight, actually. And the reason I say he's being paid in line is because I really don't think it takes a genius to work out where I'm going with my prediction for this fight. And that is obviously, no, in fact, drum roll, please. AJ via knockout, obviously, technical knockout, if Jake gets...
Jake Paul's choice to spar with elite heavyweights has sparked heavy debate among boxing analysts and fans, especially as he prepares for a fight against Anthony Joshua. While Paul has built his reputation by facing high-profile opponents, this camp has exposed the true scale of the challenge ahead, with training footage showing him struggling against the sheer power of seasoned heavyweights. According to Analysts Wade, these sparring sessions have revealed a major weakness, as Paul was reportedly knocked out in practice, raising serious doubts about his ability to withstand the strength and punching power of a former heavyweight champion like Joshua, and whether his confidence truly matches his readiness.
Is which one of those two things is happening, and question is, how is it going down? Because what we know about Anthony Joshua is that he has a nasty lead hook, and he's going to have a reach advantage on Jake, just like Lawrence Okolie does in the gym, which is why Jake has brought him in. So that jab's going to be effective. That lead hand of AJ is going to be effective. How does Jake maneuver around that? And again, you can look at this a couple of ways. One, okay, you get hit with it in camp, so you don't get hit with it in the fight, which is why you bring these heavyweights in. It's why you bring Jared Anderson, Lawrence Okolie, Frank Sanchez in. Or two, there's a massive flaw in what Jake's doing, that he's continually getting hit with this, and the indication that he's getting hit by Okolie means he's going to get hit the same way with Anthony Joshua. I tend to believe a little bit of both, right? You do this so that it doesn't happen, but also how much can Jake really learn and to avoid something that's coming out with the jab or with the lead hook, or just again the distance control and the range of a guy like Okolie and a guy like
Footage from Jake Paul's sparring sessions shows him repeatedly taking clean shots to the chin from heavyweight fighters, leaving visible marks and highlighting the brutal physical toll of the training. Working with opponents like Lawrence Okolie has pushed him into unfamiliar territory, far more demanding than anything he has faced before. Observers believe the mix of size, power, and technical skill from these heavyweights is exposing clear gaps in Paul's defense and testing his durability in ways his past fights never did.
6'5". He isn't 250 pounds. He's not a natural heavyweight. And you could say that's an advantage to Jake. He's going to be able to move around a little bit. Again, we'll talk about his feet in a second. But it's more to me the fact that what we're not seeing is the biggest weakness of Jake's, on top of the fact that he's gotten an eye smashed up in sparring. They said Frank Sanchez made his nose look like a crescent moon. We'll get to that in a second. Lawrence Okolie is giving him a freaking shiner in sparring. So again, you could say that's great work from Jake to be able to have these high-level guys come in. But you also have to admit that he's getting hit, and he's getting hit a lot by guys that aren't Anthony Joshua in terms of their skill and ability, or at least not at the highest level that AJ has been to. So,
but we brought in world champion heavyweight sparring partners, guys who are 270 pounds, 250 pounds. You know, sparring them, you know, has been insane. I still got the remnants of
I see you taking a little shot there. I like that you're taking those shots.
That wraps up today's video. Stay tuned for more, and we'll see you next time.